Everyone. Nice to see you again. I hope that the recordings are better than last time. Did you check the connection? I did. Good, great, fantastic. And otherwise, you let me know, right? I'll keep a little bit more of my eyes on the chat. So tonight we are doing the last evening on our 5 evenings that we have talking about bodhicitta, and we already have discussed quite a lot, right? I think. There's so much to think about, so much that can help to think differently than we're already doing, right? We all have this feeling like, I'm a good human being. So, when it comes to our mind, we want to help others, we want to benefit others. But benefiting others coming from a bodhicitta mind requires work on the mind, right? And the main work that we are doing is to generate the antidotes to a self-cherishing mind. Actually, bodhicitta itself is the antidote to the self-cherishing mind. But to really get there, to go from an emotional being into a being that is practicing their good heart based on reasoning, that's quite a leap to make, right? We are emotionally reactive beings, which prevents us from developing our full potential. If we would develop our full potential, loving kindness and compassion is naturally there for everyone, without discrimination, totally unbiased, right? But if we want to develop such a mind, we cannot do that on the basis of our emotional reactivity, because our emotional reactivity is totally biased, and it is totally kind of, I can say self-centered, or maybe I say self-obsessed, right? We're constantly checking, how do I feel? Am I comfortable enough? Oh, some little discomfort, I have to do something about that. Constantly, right? To counteract that mind needs training, right? It's not going to come overnight. It's not going to come from hearing on bodhicitta one time. It is repeating again and again and again, familiarizing ourselves, familiarizing our mind with the essence, which is our true nature, right? We have to familiarize, because we lost the connection. According to Buddhism, we never had that connection. From the beginning, we were disconnected from our true essence, right? From the beginning, we were ignorant beings, we were reactive beings, we were emotional beings. Now, listening to the teachings of bodhicitta, we can realize bodhicitta in our mind, because it is in accordance with the nature of our mind. But we need to familiarize ourselves with that. It's not coming by itself. But we can practice, right? So yesterday, we spoke about the methods that we have in order to develop bodhicitta. And in the Lamrim text, we find 2 methods. One is called 7 cause and effect method, and the other one is called exchanging oneself with others. Hi. So yesterday I went through 11 points, which combines both methods together. Right. So tonight I would like to speak about how we can practice bodhicitta from where we are right now. Right? We do not have to develop full bodhicitta before we can start doing the practices. We can already practice our mind, first in generating bodhicitta, then in doing the practices that a bodhisattva would do during the day. And then slowly, our mind becomes more familiar with the way the bodhisattva acts, the way how he or she speaks, and the way how he or she thinks. Right? Because we want to become like that. So we practice that. So maybe we take a few minutes to just generate a positive motivation Hi. You okay? You're just starting to generate positive motivation. So we just take a couple of minutes to let the mind relax. And with relaxing, I mean that we let the mind, all the aspects of the mind, come to the present moment, come to the body, letting go of whatever has happened in the past, letting go of whatever might happen in the future, so that all our energy is here right now. And you let your mind rest on your body. And if your mind is wandering off, you gently bring it back to your body. And sometimes I think about these sessions as having some quality time for ourselves. Where we nourish ourselves in a way that each and every cell in our body and mind feels acknowledged, feels nourished. And the more we are present, the more we can enjoy, the more we can absorb, the deeper it will touch us. And then the more effect it will have on whatever is going to come after this session. Tonight, tomorrow, next week. And so giving yourself some quality time, then you also might think, I'm going to give myself what I need. And as I mentioned before, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, he said, what sentient beings really need is enlightenment. Because enlightenment, when we achieve that state, we will experience the highest happiness that can be experienced. And we experience the deepest love, the most expansive love that is to be experienced for ourselves, for others. And so if enlightenment is going to fulfill our own needs to the fullest, we can generate a motivation that we want to become enlightened. And the only way that we can really achieve that state is when we do it for the benefit of others. When we do it to use that wisdom and compassion that we can develop to its fullest extent, when we use that to benefit all sentient beings, to show them the way to become completely free of all their suffering. And while generating that motivation, try to clearly see that this is going to bring you the most benefit that is possible. And it is going to bring sentient beings the most benefit that is possible. There is no better motivation in terms of benefit than the Bodhicitta motivation. And with that motivation, we can start our session tonight. So, Lama Rinpoche, who inspired Lama Zopa Rinpoche a lot, what he said was, live with compassion, work with compassion, die with compassion, meditate with compassion, enjoy with compassion, and when problems come, experience them with compassion. Right? Whatever we are doing, we do it with compassion.
How do you spell his name?
Kunu Lama Rinpoche, Kunu, then Lama. So how do bodhisattvas act? How do they speak? How do they think? So I've collected some things, right? But I'm sure I have not collected everything that can be done, but to give us an idea what we can do. And so the first thing that, and I'm going to share that with the people online, is, where is it? It looks like it has been closed. No, it hasn't. Just give me a second. Oh, that's funny, huh?
Venerable, I minimized everything, so it should be there, but it's just minimized.
Maybe I should make it bigger. Let me see if that helps. No, I don't see it. Can you help me?
Yeah.
Oh, show all windows. No, that's not it. Close that one.
Was it on
On the Acrobat.
Acrobat?
This one.
This one?
This one I need.
To screen share, right?
Yeah. Oh, here it is. Yeah. Thank you.
Are we recording?
Yes, we are recording. All right. So the one thing that Lama Zopa Rinpoche gave us is what he calls the method to transform a suffering life into happiness. And so he created some prayers that we can do at the beginning of the day, setting our motivation for the day, right? So that the rest, what is going to follow during that day, is all going to be somehow influenced with the Bodhicitta motivation. Whatever we do first thing in the morning, our mind is so sensitive, like a newborn baby, coming into the day newly, right? That is the best mind to think about your motivation. So when you use that time, especially the first 45 minutes, to really think about Bodhicitta, it's going to influence your whole day. Your whole day will become easier, more happy, more joy, more meaningful. And so I'm going to show you a little bit. He starts first with doing a Lamrim prayer. And so there are several Lamrim prayers that we can find in, for instance, the retreat book. And so it is good to start with the Lamrim. The Lamrim shows all the stages of the path up to enlightenment. when we read through the Lhundup, and it really doesn't matter which prayer you use, you know, whatever is most speaking to your mind. When we do that, especially in the morning, we actually show our mind, oh, this is where I want to go. We are training our mind in the path. This is the path that I need to go in order to become enlightened. And we repeat that every day, right? And if you look into how sportsmen and women train their mind, they go through whatever they need to do. The game, the running, you know, when you do the, huh? The regime. They have to do the whole regime. The better they know how the regime is like, the better they will perform. The least likely they will give up. Right? This is proven science. So we can use that science and say, oh, I'm just going to train my mind every day in that whole path that I need to go. Right? Train it, repeat it. Even if you don't understand everything, it doesn't matter, but you make imprints. First this, then that, then that. Then with time you gain more knowledge about all the specific points. Right? So that is where we can start. And then Lama Zopa Rinpoche has put together all kinds of verses from different Kadampa Geshes who really used mind transformation and Bodhicitta in order to train their mind. He put together verses from Shantidevas, the Bodhisattva way of life, you know, that you just studied here. And so we can read through them and maybe meditate on a couple of them in order to really generate that Bodhicitta mind. Right? So that could be a very good start of your morning. So you can find that in the retreat prayer books. So I'll read you a few verses, right? And you have some idea. So the first verse is, determined to obtain the greatest possible benefit from all sentient beings, who are more precious than a wish-fulfilling jewel, I shall hold them most dear at all times. Right? We hold sentient beings most dear at all times. Right? When everything is fine, that's not too difficult. But when things are not so fine, that's not easy, right? To hold them most dear. To think that all sentient beings in the eyes of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, they are most precious, right? The Buddhas have great compassion for each and every sentient being. They do not want any sentient being to suffer. They hold all sentient beings most dear. Right? So if we want to become Buddhas, this is what we need to do. First of all, because Buddhas act like that, but also when we do that now, while we're not Buddhas, we are pleasing the Buddhas. We are acting in accordance with the Buddhas. Right? And we are fulfilling what they would like to fulfill. Then we have great merit, we please the Buddhas, but also we don't harm any sentient being, we don't hurt any sentient being. Right? Then at the end of the day we can say, wow, I did well. That was a good day. And so I'll read you a couple of verses and then the rest you can look it up in the retreat prayer book. Or you can also just order this little thing online, you know, as a simple booklet. May I become like a wish-granting jewel, fulfilling all the wishes, and like a wish-granting tree, fulfilling all the hopes of transmigratory beings. And then I'm going to read you a couple. By abandoning attachment and giving everything away, I will pass beyond sorrow, and my mind will achieve a non-abiding sorrowless state, the state of omniscience. Since I will have to give up everything all at once when I die, it's best for me to give it away to sentient beings, because Buddhahood is attained in this way. And so then you read through all the verses and let it inspire your mind. And if you haven't received any teachings on them, you can think about, you know, reading something online. If you go, for instance, to Lama Yeshe's Wisdom Archive, you find many commentaries on any teachings, right? So you can type in the verse and then some commentary will come to show you the meaning of that verse, and then that can help you to deepen your contemplation, right? So every day you can do a little bit like that. So that's how we can start in the morning. Then during the day, Lama Zopa Rinpoche has what is called Bodhicitta mindfulness practice. Bodhicitta mindfulness practice is, just let me put that up. There he gives techniques where every day, with every action, you can think about something that makes your action for the benefit of all sentient beings. So for instance, he has advice for when you lay down, when you sleep, when you walk, when you stand, when you sit. For instance, when you go to sleep, I mean, we are advised to sleep in the same posture as the Buddha, right? In the lion posture on the right side. So then he says, when you do that, before you go to sleep, you think, I bring all sentient beings to the sorrowless state. Right? Then when you really go to sleep, then you think, may all sentient beings achieve the Dharmakaya. Right? Or when you wake up, then you can think, may all sentient beings achieve the holy Buddha of a body, the holy body of a Buddha. And when you get up from laying in bed, from sitting on a chair, you think, may all sentient beings rise up from the oceans of samsaric suffering. Right? So when you do that, maybe you choose only one for the day, right? When you rise up, you think, may all sentient beings be freed from samsara. May they all rise up from samsara. And you repeat that the whole day, every time when you get up. Oh yeah, may all sentient beings rise up. Right? One time we were in America, we had a retreat, and we had to walk up a little bit on the hill. And Lama Zopa was walking in front, and we were all following him, and we were all chanting. And then he said, you know, this is how we drag all these sentient beings out of the lower realms, you know, when we walk uphill. And when you do that, I mean, in the beginning you can think, I'm just doing this artificially. Yes, sure. But if you feel in your own mind, right, this is really what I'm doing, and you visualize it, that you're doing it, it becomes quite powerful. Right? So this is called the mindfulness practice. And it has advice for when you bathe, for when you wash, for when you brush your teeth, for when you go to the toilet, for when you put on perfume, for dressing and putting on and releasing a belt. I'm not sure. I think that's when you get dressed. And so he has when you put in your earrings and your bangles, he has all kinds of verses that you can say when you do that. So this you can read for yourself, and you can get ideas, like, you know, some are clearer to you than others. So start with those that you think, oh yeah, that makes sense. You know, I like that. I see that there is some benefit when I do that. Start with that, and then when you habituate yourself, then you start adopting maybe one more, right? So then all these samsaric activities that we do, that we have to do, while we are in samsara, we have to sit and stand up and lay down and eat and go to the toilet, all these things we have to do. But they all become a cause for enlightenment when we do them with bodhicitta. And they become all meritorious activities, creating merit. Right? When we don't think anything, we actually create only the causes for suffering. But when we think this, we create a cause for, not just for happiness, we create the causes for hurt. Right? Same activity, different mind. Does it make sense? So then another thing that we can do is we can practice the 6 perfections. So in the Lamrim we can find that when someone has developed bodhicitta, then they have the mind to be all sentient beings. But then what do they do? What do you do when you have the mind to benefit all sentient beings? Right? And so the practice of the bodhisattvas we call the 6 perfections. The first perfection is the perfection of generosity. That is the first practice to engage in. That's the most easy practice, but it is also the foundation of all the other perfections. The perfection of generosity. Generosity is the wish to give. And the wish to give which is not hindered by attachment and by miserliness. Right? So it is not a wish to give, but I want to hold something back. It is the wish to wholeheartedly give. Right? So completing that perfection of generosity doesn't mean that we have to give up everything that we have, to give everything away that we have. That doesn't mean it. It also doesn't mean that we have to eliminate all the poverty in the world. It's not like that. But what we need to do is that we enhance that wish to give to its fullest, using the full potential of our mind. So we are training in the perfection of generosity, and it is not necessarily needed that we need to give things away. Having said that, that doesn't mean that when we have things, right, that we then decide, oh, I don't have to give that away. But if we don't have anything, that shouldn't stop us from practicing generosity. Right? When I have nothing, then I can visualize what I offer. When I have something, then I can offer something. Right? Sometimes I hear people say, oh yeah, we have that, but we're not going to offer it because visualizing is enough. Right? It's not meant like that. When you have it, it's good to offer. When you have a lot, it's good to offer a lot. When you have a little, it's good to offer a little. Right? If you have nothing, it's okay to just visualize it. Right? So that doesn't mean that then every time that you do the practice of giving that you have to give something. You know, you can also say, okay, part of my giving, if I engage a lot in that during the day, I do with visualization. And then part of that I do with giving something. Right? So for instance, here in the morning, the practice of giving is done by offering the water bowls. Right? That is the practice of giving. And it is an easy practice of giving because water is coming from the tap. Right? We don't have to think, oh, that's going to cost me a lot. We can make sure that we have really clean water, filtered water. And we can offer generously. Right? So when you feel very stingy and you think, oh, I have such trouble giving things away, start with water. All right. When it is very, when we are in areas where there is not enough water, then we become stingy, right? Oh, I have to make sure that I'm holding on to the water. And Lama Zopa says, but if you want to create a causes for water, you have to give it away. You have to give it away. right? So don't, when there is a lack of water, don't stop offering water bowls. Make even more. Maybe you don't throw the water away. You can keep it for yourself. You can drink it. It is blessed water. You can use it for your plants. You can use it for, but don't just throw it away like, oh, I should offer this, right? So you empty the bowls, you go outside and you say, I offer this to all the sentient beings, and you throw it in the garden. If there is not enough water, you can use the water, right? For yourself, making tea of it, for your plants, for your animals. All right? So it is never that there is nothing to offer. You can always find something. Okay? Yes.
What if, like, while giving, you feel you're not giving it wholeheartedly? So, should you, like, wait for that moment when you can give wholeheartedly, or you should give it anyway?
What do you think? The question is, if I want to give something but I feel I cannot give it wholeheartedly, should I wait for the moment that I can give it wholeheartedly, or should I give it anyway with some? What do you think?
I think I should give it anyway.
I should give it anyway. I think I agree. Because, what we try to do is we try to generate a mind that can give completely freely, but we will in the beginning have some stinginess and think like, oh, do I really have to give this, Like in the monasteries, they let the little monks, they get some money when they do puja, and then they are asked to give something of that money. And there are some monks who do not want to give anything, right? So they get smacked like, you also have to give a rupee. Right? So that is how we learn. And then we give it with some stinginess, but we feel like, oh, it's not really damaging me. It's not really that I have a loss of this. And so we get encouraged to give more, or we give more wholeheartedly. Yes, don't wait till you are. We can only perfect it by doing it, right?
But Venerable, what does the perfection of your practice of generosity look like?
Oh, that's a very difficult question. No, it's not a difficult question, but it is a very difficult answer. So it says that the perfection of generosity is complete when you use your full potential to give freely. Right? That is having achieved the perfection of generosity. But then you can also talk about, we have 6 perfections. You can use all the 6 perfections in one deed of generosity. That also perfects your generosity. Right? So when we speak about the perfections of the 6 perfections, when are they achieved? They are actually achieved. They are achieved after the path of seeing. So on the first ground, which is just after somebody has realized emptiness directly, then the perfection of generosity can be perfected. So don't worry too much about that. You can look into it, like what can I all do? For instance, you can think about, you give freely, but then you also make sure that what you're giving is ethically required, right? So that you have not harmed any sentient being, that you have not. Some people, they go to the park, they take some flowers and they come here and they want to offer to the Buddha. But actually, these flowers are taken, they're not yours, right? It's a kind of a stealing that you do, and then you offer it. So that is not a proper giving. You want to make sure that you have not taken away somebody's property and then give it. Right? Then you can think about, oh, but I bought that offering. Well, did you make that money in an ethical way? right? If you're a butcher and you make the money by killing animals and then you offer to the Buddha, it's like it's not an ethical way of receiving your money. Or with corruption or stealing, or there's so many ways that the lack of ethics can be there. And then you make sure that you give it with patience. Right? So when you give some money to the beggar and the beggar starts scolding you because you give so little, you react with perfect patience. You don't get disturbed at all when that happens. Right? So this is what we can add to the perfections. So we can make the perfections in a way that, or we can do them in a way that within each action all the 6 perfections are represented. So there are 3 practices of giving that we can do. One is the practice of giving Dharma, right? We're teaching the Dharma. One is giving protection from fear. Protection from fear can, for instance, be that, somebody, your friend or your mom is in hospital and she's quite anxious. And you go and visit her and you calm her. You speak kindly to her, you hold her hand, you stroke her hand. Say, Mom, it's going to be okay. Don't worry, don't worry. That's giving her protection from fear. Right? That's part of the perfection of generosity. Or you can, for instance, when people have problems, right? You listen to them. We talked about that yesterday, right? That we sometimes have trouble listening to people with problems. But that is you're generous with your time. Right? I can give you this time. I give you the time and I will be with you without thinking, oh my gosh, you're wasting my time, right? I give you this time. Then that can help to really listen to that person. Or you can think about giving shelter. Or you can think about, when we think about insects, when insects, you find them in the toilet or in waters or in the bath, you take them out and you release them. Right? Every time when you see that there is a sentient being with fear, you can see, what can I do to help? And then we can also give material things. So all our wealth, all our resources, our money, or just material things, we can use that in order to give. Lama Zopa says there is no thing better to do with your money than to give it away. Because when you give it away, you create a merit of receiving, right? If you want to receive money, you have to give it away. Right? That's what he practiced all the time. He gave. He gave his time, he gave his money, he gave his resources, he gave his material possessions, whatever. People would give a statue to Lama Zopa Rinpoche, and then sometimes the next person would come to see him, would walk out with that statue. One time there was a monk, and he had made this beautiful prayer wheel for Lama Zopa Rinpoche. And he had worked on that for years, perfecting it, making sure he had the best wood. And then inside there were all these microfilms, and he had done that to perfection. It had cost him all his money, all his time, and then he gave Lama Zopa Rinpoche, So proud. Look what I made for Lama Zopa Rinpoche. And then a couple of hours later, he's walking in the garden, and there is this girl walking with a prayer wheel, and he thinks, that looks like my prayer wheel, right? And then this girl comes to him and says, oh, I want to thank you, see what Lama Zopa gave me. So he could see his own mind, that said, oh, this is my prayer wheel. He wanted to give it just to Lama Zopa Rinpoche, So then there was something holding back. It's not complete 100% free giving. And we can imagine if we would be challenged like that, we would do maybe something similar. Huh? So what I mentioned first, giving the Dharma, that doesn't mean only the Buddha Dharma, but it actually refers to any life skill that you have, any knowledge that you have. So it can be knowledge about the medical science, it can be knowledge about astrology, it can be knowledge about how to make a table, it can be knowledge about anything, right? We all have a lot of knowledge that we received. So when we pass that on to somebody else, that's an act of giving, right? So when you notice that you are doing that, it's very good to contemplate, I'm giving, I'm creating merit, right? We think, oh, it's not important, I just give. Yeah, well, in a way, maybe it's not important, but in a way it is important because you are collecting merit. And you can see that as something that you have done in a positive way. Right? At the end of the day, when you do your Vajrasattva practice and you go through the day thinking about what were my positive actions, what were my negative actions, and you can say, well, I gave this and I gave that and I helped this person and I gave that person some time, and right, then you can say, wow, I can rejoice in that, fantastic. Right? Don't take your giving for granted. It's very precious. Give without exception, reward will come. Or give without expecting a reward, the reward will come. And it says even in the Madhyamika Avatara that even when we give with the thought that we're going to get that back, then still the giving that we are doing will create the merit. Right? Sometimes we say we need to have a pure motivation. But even if we don't have a pure motivation, still the results will come. Right? It will come. And so the way that we give, what do we have in mind when we give? We have in mind that whatever we are giving, we're giving that in order to attain enlightenment for the benefit of others. Right? So when you give 10 rupees to a beggar, you think, I'm giving you this in order to attain enlightenment for the benefit of others. I'm giving you this in order to attain enlightenment. I'm not just giving you this to release you from some suffering. I'm giving this so that I will create a merit in order to attain enlightenment. And then it says in the text that, when we have generated bodhicitta, we have already dedicated our body, speech, and mind to all sentient beings. We already have given all that away. And then you can think, so actually all the possessions that I have, they're not really mine. Because by generating bodhicitta, I already have given everything to sentient beings. So I keep them now. I borrow them kind of from sentient beings. But when sentient beings use them, I give them away. Right? That can help you with some stinginess, with some holding back. Right? Thinking it is not mine. What I have is not mine. It's already from sentient beings. Right? Everything that we have is already coming from sentient beings. And then when it arrives at us, our place, and we say, it's mine. It's mine. But what if we say, it's not mine, I'm just borrowing it? But it will be passed on. Right? I have it now in my possession, but it will be passed on. Whether that is at the end of my life or whether that is during my life. But when we die, we cannot take anything. Right? And we dedicate it to sentient beings. Right? I see some difficult minds looking at me like, what are you talking about? What's happening inside your mind?
Well, can you talk a little bit about how we give our merit? Because merit seems like something we take with us in our karma.
Ah, okay. So merit are the causes for happiness, right? So you can visualize that whatever causes for happiness you have generated, you give them to others. For instance, when we do the Tonglen practice, that's something that we can visualize. Right? So you just did that very meritorious action. And then you say, all that merit, I'm going to give to him. I don't need it. I wish him to experience the results of that. So that happens in the mind, right? That doesn't happen in actuality. And when I say that happens in the mind, it doesn't happen in actuality, don't think I'm just going to fake it, right? You have to pretend that it is really like that. Really give it away. Train the mind in really giving it away. Because then something will happen in your mind, right? If you think, oh, I'm thinking about it, but it cannot really happen, it's not going to touch you deeply inside your heart. It's kind of a superficial thought. Oh, yeah, I give that away, but you don't really give it away. But you visualize, I'm giving it away. You know? Giving freedom from fear. Protection from fear. We once did that with Lama Zopa Rinpoche. Maybe I already told that story. Because it impressed my mind so much that I keep repeating this. So I'm sorry if you already have heard this. One time we were in America doing a retreat. And there was this big storm approaching Florida. It was this, what do you say, strength 5? A hurricane. It was gonna really devastate the whole state, bringing floods, destruction from the wind, you name it, you know. And so Lama Zopa was informed that that was about to happen, and so then he said, you all have to practice. And so he chose the mantra that we had to recite. And we started reciting mantras. Within an hour, the power of the storm started to go down. Right? It was not 5 anymore. It did not look that devastating anymore. And it was, I don't know if it was immediately 4, but it was definitely going down. Then the next morning, it was still 4, 3.5, 4, still quite intense. So he told us again to do practice. And this time it was, we had to visualize that we were there in the place and that we felt that the storm was coming and that we were very scared. And we had to imagine the fear that these people were experiencing, really take it on, you know. And then with that fear in our mind, we had to take refuge, strongly take refuge in Buddha Dharma Sangha. And then after that, so we did that refuge prayer, and then after that we did again the mantra that he had advised. Within a couple of hours, danger gone. I thought, we're only here with 150 people. How is this possible? You know? And then Lama Zopa Rinpoche said, yeah, he said, somehow you create so much merit that the mind of the person who wanted to do that changes. You create so much merit. So we were creating so much merit so that the person's mind who wanted to do that could not think about that anymore, changed. This could be giving away your merit to protect someone from fear. Right? Easy, huh? And so in terms of for who we practice generosity, it says in the text, you should give with love to your enemy. You should give with compassion to those who are suffering. You should give with happiness to those who have great qualities in their minds. And you should give with equanimity to those who have helped you in this life. And so if you read in the Lamrim the perfection of generosity and the text, there is so much information in terms of who do you give to, what is appropriate to give, what is not appropriate to give, what is the wrong time to give, many advices. So if you're interested, you can perfect. Because sometimes we think, oh, but this beggar is asking for alcohol, do I give the alcohol? Right? Because if I don't give it, he will scold me that I'm not generous or whatever, and then I feel guilty, and then I think, oh, maybe. So how do I do that? So in the Lamrim, you can find very detailed what is appropriate to give, what is not appropriate to give, what is the best receiver, how to give, what thought is in your mind, all these details with respect to the perfection of giving. All right. When we are able to give away what we have, or we visualize that we give away, and we slowly let go of our miserliness and our attachment, what happens to us? How do we start feeling? We become more light? What effect would it have on our practice of ethics? What effect would it have on our anger? If we can give away freely, and a thief comes, right? Would we have a different reaction? So then when people start harming us, we will react less, right? And when we think about the practice of ethics, and the main practice that we are doing is abstaining from harming others. When we practice generosity, we create a very good basis for that, right? Because when we receive harm, we do not have so much the tendency to harm back. Because we can think, if somebody hits me, I can think, I already have given this body to sentient beings. Why would I get angry? They should be able to do with it whatever they want. Right? Not an easy practice, but we could think like that. Then it makes it much easier not wanting to punch back. True? It helps not to retaliate. So the practice of ethical discipline is mainly abstaining from activities that are harmful. And so in order to do that practice, we can say for ourselves, I'm going to abstain from the 10 non-virtuous actions, but we can also take vows. Like we take the vows of individual liberation, which are the vows of monks and nuns, which are, for instance, the 8 Mahayana precepts that we sometimes take, right? Maybe you have done in the past. It is also the Bodhisattva vows, right? Where we do not feel that I'm going to enrich myself and I'm not going to give anything of that. So these are the main practices in practicing ethics. And so when we have done really good practice in giving, the practice in ethics is not so difficult. When we try to practice ethics, but we become angry, in a certain situation, we have to check. How is my practice of giving? Right? I can, for instance, say every time when I go and they start hitting my body, I get so angry. Okay, did you really give your body away? Or are you still holding on to that as being mine? Right? Then maybe you first practice giving away your body. Then you will react less strong when something happens to your body. Right? Then another way of practicing ethics is the ethics of undertaking virtue, which means that we're practicing the 10 virtuous actions. That's a way of ethics. And then another way of practicing ethics is the ethics of benefiting others. And what that means is that you try to provide positive conditions to sentient beings so that it becomes more easy for them to attain higher rebirth, liberation, or enlightenment. Right? The ethics of benefiting others it doesn't say that you give them whatever they want to have in their samsaric life. It is talking about providing conditions so that they can either achieve a higher rebirth or liberation or enlightenment. And so then when we have practiced ethics, then the next practice that comes is the practice of patience. Patience is the mind that is undisturbed by harm. And it is a quality that we must cultivate within the mind, These are all qualities, these are all types of actions that we need to cultivate. Even bodhicitta itself is an action, right? Loving kindness is an action. Compassion is an action. The practice of giving is an action. The practice of ethics is an action, right? And so also the practice of patience. And so there are 3 types of patience. There is the patience of not retaliating when we receive harm. There is the patience of voluntarily taking on the suffering or problems that arise. And there is a patience that is willing to undergo any difficulty that comes with practicing Dharma. Right? So the mind of patience knows how to be with suffering, whether that is coming from harm or some other type of internal, external suffering, or from practicing the Dharma. Right? I'm able to bear it. And I think the very good practice is that practice that we did with respect to self-compassion. We did that in the weekend, right, on Sunday. That practice of self-compassion helps us to take on the suffering that we experience, right? When we know how to take it on, the mind stays cool. The mind is not disturbed. But when we feel like, oh no, I don't like this, I don't want this, the mind gets agitated because the mind is trying to get rid of it. Right? When we receive harm, aversion is there straight away, right? Aversion disturbs the mind. We think harm disturbs my mind. But in actuality, it is our reaction to the harm that disturbs the mind. So the better we know how to be with harm, without fighting it, without wanting to get rid of it, maybe even embracing it, right? Then the mind does not get disturbed. That's a quality. True? when somebody hits us and we can just take it without getting disturbed. Wow, huh? What a mind is that?
Not very easy.
Not easy, huh? Because as soon as we have pain, aversion is there. Disturbed, we are disturbed. Straight away. I mean, these reactions, they come in the second moment, in the next moment. The feeling is there, and the next moment the reaction is there. Right? So we have no control over that. The only way that we can control it is that when we feel it and we already have a reaction, that we're going to say, oh, the other is hurt, you know, and I'm just going to breathe it in. I'm just going to take it on. Right? Then the more we can take it on, the calmer the mind will become. So the main obstacle to practicing patience is our anger. But also when we think about the main obstacle to the patience that is being able to endure hardships is lack of self-confidence. Feeling like I can't do it. You know, sometimes we have so much suffering that we feel like I can't do it. I can't do it, you know. Oh, I have so much pain in my body. I can't take this. I just don't want to be here. Right? So that is an obstacle to our patience. Generating a mind that feels confident that I can bear this, I can take this, I can live with this. It's not gonna determine my life, you know. It is something that is happening to me, but I'm not gonna let that take over my life. And the obstacle to practicing the patience of enduring difficulties in the Dharma practice is that we lack faith or interest in the Dharma. Right? If you're not really interested in what we're talking about, then whatever suffering you're experiencing in this moment, you can't take it, no? As you think, oh, I'm just going to go. I'm going to get up. I'm going to go. I'm going to do something nice, you know? But if you're interested, then you feel like even if you're not comfortable, you're hot, or maybe you're hungry, you're tired, you think, but I want to hear it. I want to hear it, right? So when we have a lot of interest or we have a lot of faith, it is more easy to take the suffering that comes from listening to the Dharma, practicing the Dharma. Good. So that's patience. There is one beautiful book from a commentary from His Holiness Dalai Lama on the 6th chapter of Shantideva's, the Bodhisattva Way of Life, which is called Healing Anger. And he goes in detail into how we can be with our angry mind, how we can think in a way that we counteract the anger and therefore develop patience. Right? So chapter 6 is on patience, but it actually explains how our own reaction of becoming angry, and then how to think differently so that the mind becomes patient. And so he gives a commentary on these verses. It's very beautiful to read. So then we have the perfection of perseverance, or the perfection of enthusiastic effort. And that perseverance, what it means is that we have a quality of joy arising in the mind when we engage in virtue. Sometimes we have to do, you hear me already say that, we have to do some practice, we have to do the water bowls in the morning, but we don't really feel interested in it. But we do it anyway. So then we do not have any enthusiastic effort. Right? We still create merit, but not the merit of doing something with enthusiastic effort, not the merit of the motivation. right? Offering something to Buddha Dharma Sangha, any practice that we are doing in relation to Buddha Dharma Sangha will create merit, even when we have an angry mind or a mind that is not so motivated. We still create merit due to the power of the object. But when we can do these same practices with joyous effort, right, we have much more merit. Plus, I think we feel much better, right? If we really feel motivated doing these practices, we get a lot of joy. And so the last two perfections are the perfection of concentration and the perfection of wisdom. These 6 perfections are extensively described in any Lamrim text. And studying them is very, very useful, you know. Because even if we have not completed our practice of bodhicitta, that doesn't mean that we cannot already practice the 6 perfections, right? If I practice giving, even if I do it in dependence on one sentient being, there is some merit there. But then I can think when I give, I do this to create the causes for my enlightenment so that I can benefit all sentient beings. My merit becomes much bigger, right? If I if I give something, then maybe I give something to a family, and I know that I'm not just giving this to you, but it will benefit everyone around you, right? If I have that in mind, I generate the merit of having benefited all these sentient beings. So we can start where we are, right? And then we can feel invited to engage more and more in the practice and extend that radius of sentient beings, you know? Create a bigger and bigger and bigger circle of sentient beings that we want to benefit. Within mind, then it becomes the cause for me to achieve enlightenment, right? And so we can do practice of giving, we can do practice of ethics, we can do the practice of patience, we can do the practice of joyous effort. And then when you really have time, you can do some courses where you practice concentration. Or you do courses where you practice wisdom, where you learn about the nature of reality. Right? In general, they say it is advised for lay people to do the practice of giving, ethics. No, ethics is also for ordained people, but ethics and then patience and joyous effort. That is mainly referring to the lay people, and then the ordained are concentration and wisdom. But nowadays, I think we are getting more and more the same in our practices.
Why was it only for the monks and the nuns?
To do concentration and wisdom, because I mean, when you look at the situation of the lay people 100, 200 years ago, you know, they were just farmers working in the field. How can they practice concentration and wisdom? If you want to do that, you go to the monastery, right? They have no time to do that. All right. I do want to finish tonight with a meditation on Tonglang. So let's go from the practice of the 6 perfections, which is one way that the bodhisattvas can, that we can practice the bodhisattva deeds. What we also can do is we can practice mind transformation. Mind transformation we use when adverse conditions arise, right? A problem comes. Normally we want to run away, right? Oh, no, we don't like problems. We don't like suffering. But when they arise, we can also say, hey, how can I use that to benefit my own spiritual practice? Right? How can I transform this problem in a way to achieve enlightenment. Right? So in Buddhism, we try to not run away from anything, but we use everything, we bring everything onto the path. We see it as a fuel that can help us to develop our mind. Right? I mean, we say, sometimes you hear the life coaches saying, right? Don't see it as a problem, see it as an opportunity, right? Use it as an opportunity for learning. In a way, that is true, right? This is done in the life coaching, using adverse conditions for creating them into opportunities. So you can wonder when problems come, what can I learn from this? How could this help me to develop my qualities? What am I challenged in? What is required from me now? Right? One Lama one day said it like this. Somebody said, so when you practice like this, then do you have less difficult situations coming in your life, because of your practice? And he said, no, you will just have as many difficult situations as everyone. But what you learn from the Dharma practice is that instead of being pushed around by your conditions, you learn to walk through them. Right? So we cannot stop things from happening to us. But what we can learn is, what are we going to do with that? How can I make my mind so strong that whatever happens, it's not going to throw me out of balance? I just keep walking my path. Right? That's what we can learn, how to do that. So then, in order to make a mind like that, when adverse conditions come, right, we have to use that. We have to stop running away from it, because when we run away, we cannot walk through it. So we say, thank you very much. What can I do with this? So that means that we have to let go of the mind that does not want to have any problems. Right? We all have a mind, I don't want any problems. Problems is by definition something that we don't want. Suffering is by definition something that we do not want. Right? So it triggers immediately in the mind that attitude of I don't want it. The aversion is immediately there. So we have to think about, when problems come, there is something good in problems. Right? The moment I can see some benefits in problems, my mind of aversion is gone. Right? Or at least it is lessened. True? If I get a problem and I think, wow, what an opportunity. Now I can actually start achieving my goal. Right? That moment, there is no aversion there. That moment I also cannot define it anymore as a problem. The moment I see it as an opportunity, the problem is gone. So upon how we frame it, how we perceive it. If we can somehow see it in a positive light, what it does in the mind is that reaction of aversion is lessened, becomes less, or maybe doesn't even appear at all. When that reaction of aversion is not there, the mind is much more clear, the mind is more relaxed, the mind is not disturbed. Right? Then 90% of the problem already is gone. And then we can think with our wisdom mind, how do I gonna resolve this issue? Right? Because issues are there all the time. And sometimes we maybe say, you know what, that issue is here, but I'm not going to do anything with it. Because anything that I try to do is just going to increase the problem. I'm just going to leave it and wait till it falls apart naturally. Can you tell me 2 benefits of problems? What are the benefits of having problems, of having and maybe suffering?
They make us come to Dharma teachings.
Who?
Because of problems and
Because of problems, we come to Dharma teachings. Yeah. So problems is a very good excuse to get to the Dharma, right? Then we are willing to listen. Yes. If we have no problem, it's very difficult to meet with the Dharma. Right? I think most of us, everyone comes here because of problems. If we have no problems, there is no need to come to teachings like that. Right? Very good. So we can meet the Dharma, independence on our problems. What else?
Hard time makes you stronger for harder times.
Hard time makes you stronger for harder times. Is that here on the chat, or is that what you made?
This is one of my friend's WhatsApp status.
Okay. Somebody says here that problems, they turn your mind inward and they humble you. You become more humble. So when we have suffering, it's the best antidote to pride. Right? The pride that believes like, I'm invincible, it's not going to hurt me, nothing can touch me, I'm above everyone and everything, right? Then we suffer and we think, oh my gosh, I'm worse than everybody else. I don't even know how to do this, right? Then the mind changes from being superior or feeling superior to feeling just a very ordinary sentient being, or even less than that. When we are humble, we have more willingness to learn. Right? When we're not humble, when we have a lot of pride, we cannot learn. So pride is a huge obstacle to learning. Then suffering, wow, what a gift. Your pride is going to be purified, then you can learn. Right? One more good reason, not good reason, but how we can see the benefits of suffering or problems.
we develop perspective.
We get
Perspective.
we get perspective. Can you say a little bit more about that?
I mean, we have a straightforward way of thinking that says everything is going fine, then we take things for granted and just go with the flow.
Yes.
But when
If everything goes well, then we take things for granted and we just go with the flow.
and when the problem happens, we are forced to think in a different way about it.
And when problems happen, we are forced to think in a different way. Yes, so we get a different perspective. Yes, and we can also maybe, develop our compassion, because we realize that the way that I'm suffering, actually so many sentient beings are suffering. Right? And to be with suffering, whether that is your own suffering or whether that is a suffering from others, we can only really truly be with the suffering when there is compassion. Right? Also, I think, when we have suffering, when we experience suffering, only with compassion, that suffering goes away. Right? Without compassion, that suffering is going to stay. When suffering meets with compassion, it dissolves. Right? So having a lot of suffering can help you to generate a lot of compassion. Right? To know how to be with suffering, it's a challenge. It's like if you have a body that is aching all the time, how are you going to be with that? Right? can only be with compassion. So how wonderful, right? That we have these opportunities while we are here in samsara. So then we can also use whatever problems, whatever suffering there is, we can use it to practice Tonglen, right? And I do want to do that tonight. So that's that. And then at the end, and we can use that at the end of the day, all the merit that we have created, we can dedicate them towards our own enlightenment, right? So when we practice as a Bodhisattva, we wake up in the morning, we start our motivation, we do the practices that Rinpoche advised us to do. Then during the day, with all our samsaric activities, we can think in the way that he advises in the Bodhicitta mindfulness. Then during the day, we practice the 6 perfections. Whenever problems come, we use them to transform our mind. And then at the end of the day, we dedicate the merit towards our own enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, right? So that is the way that the Bodhisattva practices. All on the basis of bodhicitta, right? When we do these practices, the beauty is that when we do them, the moment we do them, we feel good, right? When we give, when we abstain from harming others, when we have patience, when we have joyous effort, all these qualities make us feel good. So when we do the meritorious activity, we feel good, right? Then the result of that merit, the result of our actions, is that in the future we're going to experience the result, which will be experiences of happiness, right? So it works double, right? The moment we exercise it, and then later on we will experience the result of that, right? So if you want to become happy, it's quite clear, right, what to do, or not?
Double happy than we expected.
Huh?
Double happy than.
Double happy even, right? But we think, how come that I'm not happy? How come that it's not coming? I'm trying this, I'm trying that, but I'm not really, right? But when we do this, happiness is there while we do the actions, and happiness is there as a result of these actions. And not only just happiness, there is a kind of a feeling of my life is becoming meaningful, right? When people around us are happy with what we are doing, we feel good about ourselves. We get confidence, right? We feel like, wow, I can do this. Fantastic. Right? Any negative aspects in this? Nothing. I wish you would be smiling now, but I think you guys are tired. No negative effects. No negative side effects when we practice bodhicitta. Nothing. It's fantastic. It's fantastic. So let's do a little Tonglen meditation. Are there any questions from online? Otherwise we do the Tonglen and then we dedicate and we go home, huh? I won't do too long meditation, just to give you a little impression, right? Maybe 10 minutes. Okay? All right, I don't see any questions coming. Okay. So make sure that you sit comfortable. . And give your mind a couple of minutes to relax, to let go of all the things that you heard tonight. And just be present in this moment. You are aware of your body, and you are aware of your breath. And then you think about some problem that you have in your life. A small problem or a medium problem. Don't take the big problems. And you see yourself and how you are suffering from that. You see your own insecurities, your upset, your angst, and you kind of feel for yourself. And so what you can do is that you actually put yourself in front of yourself, and you see how you suffer from these problems. And when you really see how it brings you out of balance, you feel for yourself. And then what you say is, give me that suffering. And you visualize that when you breathe in, all that suffering from the you, visualize in front of you, all that suffering comes towards you in the form of black smoke. And it hits you in your heart. And then you can visualize that your heart cracks open and then light comes out of your heart. And that light carries all your merit, all your wealth, all your happiness. And you send it out towards yourself, giving yourself what you need in this situation. You breathe in the suffering in the form of black smoke, and you breathe out the happiness in the form of white light. And while you take away your own suffering and you give yourself what you need, you slowly start to feel some kind of relief. The you in front of you starts to relax. His or her body is relaxing. It is less anxious, more relaxed, and maybe a little smile is coming on its face. And then you can think how wonderful that I helped myself to become liberated from that suffering. And how wonderful that I could give myself whatever I needed for that. And so then when you are at home and you feel safe enough doing this practice, you can think about something that happened to you in the past that you haven't completely resolved yet. Again, not the biggest thing, but something smaller. And you visualize yourself at the time that it happened to you in front of you. And you see again how you suffered from what happened, what it did to you, how it affected your mind. And then you feel compassion for your younger self. And so you want to free your younger self from all their suffering, and you visualize that the suffering comes towards you when you breathe in the form of black smoke, which hits you in your heart, and then it cracks. In the heart we have this self-cherishing mind, there it cracks open, and then light comes from your heart, sending out to your younger self, giving that everything it needs. All the comfort, the love, the care, the protection, whatever it needed, you give it to your younger self. And on the rhythm of your breath, you breathe in the suffering and you breathe out the happiness. Breathe in the suffering and breathe out the happiness. Until you see that there is some relief in the face and in the rest of the body of your younger self. And you continue your practice, breathing in the suffering, breathing out your happiness, giving your younger self whatever it needs. And so when you practice this at home, then you can, when you have worked with your younger selves, you can think about your future selves and the suffering that is still going to come. And you can already, in this present moment, visualize the suffering that you're going to experience when you get older, when you are about to die. And you can take that onto yourself. And sending your older self all the happiness it needs. And when you feel comfortable with that, you can visualize those that you love and like, your friends, your relatives. You visualize them in front of you. Maybe there's one particular person who is suffering a lot, and you can just do one person. And often with somebody that is very close to us, we already feel, oh, let me have their suffering. Right? I know that I can bear it, but I can see that they cannot bear their suffering, so I'll take it. And you visualize that you take on their suffering and that it comes in the form of black smoke towards you. Again, hitting you in the self-cherishing mind, that black rock in your heart, which then cracks open and only light comes out. And on these light rays, there is everything that that person needs, whether that is material help, whether that is emotional help and support. And on the rhythm of your breath, you take and you give, and you take and you give, until you see that that person relaxes. And even a smile appears on their face. And then you can think, what an amazing practice. I am able to help all sentient beings in this way, taking on their suffering, relieving them, bringing them relief, and giving them everything they need. How wonderful, how amazing. And so you rejoice in all your merit. And then when you feel ready, you can open your eyes. And you can imagine that when you do this practice, from those that you love most to those that you love a little bit less, to those that you don't know, to those that you have difficulty with, you can extend that practice in this way. Why not practice bigger problems with a Tonglen? Well, when we are doing that here, we want to do it safe, and we are practicing, we are baby practitioners, so we start small. Then when we feel that the mind becomes more strong and that we feel more confident, then you can do bigger problems, right? Sometimes when we take on big problems from the beginning, it can actually overwhelm the mind. And then you might think, oh my gosh, no, this is not what I want to do, right? And we don't want to create an experience like that. Transformation can be done, but how to sustain that transformation? When transformation happens, then you practice the same thing again and again and again. Then it becomes your second nature. All right. So we're going to dedicate. I'm just going to put this on the screen for you. Do we have the long life prayer, the swift return prayers? No, that's not what I want.
These are the things. But we have only 4 copies to we only 4 people in the group. So you can come together.
So we are getting here ready with the prayers for the swift return of Lama Zopa Rinpoche. dear Lama Zopa Rinpoche with His Holiness. And so we first read the prayers for the swift return, and then we do a few other dedication prayers. Yes. Okay, are we ready? Good. Peerless teacher and assembly of the children of the victorious ones, Shravakas and Prachika Buddhas, victorious Losang, father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now. Holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings, through explanation and practice, you wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable Venerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happy emerge, and for mother living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the three jewels and the great ways of Bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of the reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate saints. And then prayer of Jara Rinpoche. Patient and bearing the hardships of spreading the teachings of the Muni in general, and the teachings of the victorious Jamyang Tsongkhapa in hundreds of directions. Lord of Dharma, holding the three vows and wearing saffron robes, please quickly return as the glories of the peerless teachings. You held the teachings of explanation and practice with great asceticism, unable to bear that transmigratory beings are confused by the darkness of suffering. Through your great loving kindness, you skillfully led them to happiness. Unparalleled Son of the teachings, please return quickly. Beautified by the ornament of supreme patience and increasing the practice of the supreme authentic teachings of the victorious one, through listening, reflection, and meditation, guide all transmigratory beings along the perfect path. True and perfect pure Guru, please return quickly. And then the lamenting wail, the supplication for the swift return from Kyabje Lama Zopa Rinpoche by Kadula. Guru, think of me. Guru, consider me. Most gracious root Guru, care for me. Most gracious root Guru, do not deprive us of your compassionate refuge. Listen and consider this heartfelt prayer made by a tormented disciple. Guru, embodiment of the Buddhas of the three times, please bless me. You may rest in all-pervading great bliss, echoes within the dark of unimpeded luminosity. Yet the playful dance of your loving compassion emanates in myriad ways. The time has come for the return of the swift appearance of your magical wisdom, the Rupakaya, and for you to care for us once again with your affectionate compassion. Arise, arise, arise from the Dharmakaya. I invoke you, I call upon you, I implore you on behalf of all beings. Do not rest in Kichara or the other pure realms. Rather, to benefit Buddha's teachings and all living beings, swiftly return to the southern continent to spread the Buddha Dharma of study and realization. Quickly return to guide us, poor wretched beings, such as the desperate cry of us, your disciples. Return so that we may actually behold your presence and receive the blessings of your body, speech, and mind. All violations, errors, mistakes, and broken samaya that we have made in relation to your body, speech, mind, and spontaneous activity, through our being confused and conceiving things in erroneous ways, we confess with the luminous emptiness of your three kayas. Of everything auspicious, the supreme auspiciousness, may there be the auspiciousness of emptiness and compassion. May there be the auspiciousness of a timely meeting between master and disciple. Through the force of the truth of unchanging suchness, may the unmistaken incarnation return quickly. This friend was sent by me, a Dakini with pure faith and samaya, her eyes filled with tears of sorrow. May these wishes of a beggar woman be fulfilled through the blessings of the deities of the three roots. Perception, its object, and the perceiver all dissolve within the expanse, the blissful clarity of suchness. Ah. And then the swift return prayer from Lhundup Rinpoche. The Lamb of the Gaiden teachings, the supreme refuge, Lama Zopa, has departed in order to rouse to the Dharma disciples who cling to permanence. Supreme Being, you took upon yourself the Kadam teacher's way of life and were bound to it night and day, greatly benefiting the teachings and transmigratory beings. Great Master of the teachings, supreme guide for East and West, hidden yogi, Lama Zopa. Unrivaled Lama Zopa, you took His Holiness, the sovereign Lord of the victorious ones, as your crown and followed all his instructions. Benefactor Lama Zopa, for the many public and personal needs of Tibetans and others, you opened the vast of resources and cleared away the suffering of hardship. One of great mind, Lama Zopa, you help helpless and voiceless animals with a mind of loving kindness and were their holy savior and protector. Siddha Lama Zopa, Lord the ocean of mandalas, with the wings of emptiness and compassion, you cross the waters of the generation and completion stages. Lama Zopa, great hidden yogi, ornament of the activities of the Gaiden teachings, and truth the great son of the victorious ones. Having thought of me and other transmigratory beings of the degenerate age, from your seat of lotus and sun at the heart of Sangye Yeshe, may the jewel that fulfills all wishes, emanating again with the brilliance of 10,000 suns, smile swiftly and without obstacles to our eyes filled with tears of faith. And then we can benefit for His Holiness the Dalai Lamas and all our other teachers. May their lives be stable and may all their holy wishes be fulfilled immediately. And then we can dedicate that due to the past, present, and future merit accumulated by myself and all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and other sentient beings, may Bodhicitta arise in my mind and in the minds of all the members of my family and all other sentient beings. And may the Bodhicitta that already has arisen in my mind only increase more and more. And then I'll read some prayers from Shantideva to dedicate really with Bodhicitta. And I think you know the prayers. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with the mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the hopeless find hope, constant happiness and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all the medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailment. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and the people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain, to dispel the miseries of the world. Thank you so much
Thank you.
for being here. I have the feeling every night there are more people here. And everyone online, thank you so much for having been here, having had the patience to listen, having done.
On behalf of everybody and on behalf of Tushita's mom.
Thank you so much. You always come with the beautiful books on the Dharma celebration. Are you sure you want to give that away?
Yes, this is from his teaching few years ago at Ashoka Hotel, Delhi. Yeah,
Wow.
There are few questions and answers also, so you can just go through it if you have the time that is. But yeah.
I received just this from the Dharma celebrations. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Venerable Jamyang, for these amazing 2 weeks that we've had with you, to really understand, expand our understanding, our knowledge of what it takes to enter the path. You've also helped us in the compassion for self and others to connect with our own suffering and told us ways to purify our karma and at the same time enlarge our mind. So I feel like I personally have so many clues and I have like a roadmap on what needs to be done going ahead. Thank you so much for coming and teaching us in person. We really hope you can come again. And on behalf of us, as our request, we have a small thank you on behalf of all the volunteers and all this regular.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you so much. You're so kind. Thank you. And thank you, Tushita, for having me, right? And for organizing these teachings and for, I know that you guys are doing fantastic work here at Tushita by providing every morning during the week or also in the weekend?
And on Saturday as well.
Monday till Saturday, a meditation for people online. It's amazing to have so many. I don't think there are so many, but a couple of you are doing that, and it's. I think it is so beautiful to provide that to the community. And if you look online, there are many people who are participating, right? Maybe not in the moment itself, but later on, there are many views. So people really appreciate that. And then also there are the teachings then during the week. And Tushita is doing this all from donations, no?
From donations.
So think about when you leave the room that Tushita is, completely dependent. This is just you coming together, you bringing everything together to make this happen, right? And then so there is also sometimes money needed to pay the rent and the electricity bills. And so if you can miss something, that would be very helpful for Tushita. And yes, I when I come next time, once I promise Renuka I will come twice a year. I will try to do that. And then we can see if there are other possibilities. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And hope to see you soon again. Okay. Thank you very much.
Does anyone want to take shall we take a group photo?